Thanks for joining us tonight for the first 2022 Women's National League show with Final Whistle WNL. My name's Alanna Cunnane and I'll be your host for this evening. Following on, of course, from Breffney and Stephanie, who were at the helm of the programme last year. Don't worry though, they're not gone too far. You'll see Breffney at the end of tonight's show and we hope to have Stephanie on over the coming weeks. But back to tonight for a minute, we have a brilliant lineup for you, exploring all facets of the Women's National League. First up, we have triumphant winner's perspective with Shelbourne Star and Young Player of the Year nominated Jessie Stapleton. We've Nicola Sinnott then of Wexford Youths representing the FAI Cup winners of last season and to find out their expectations for the coming year. After that, then we'll go to one of Nicola's former teammates in Emma Hansberry, who'll give us an insight into the new kids on the block, Sligo Rovers, before concluding with Breffney Early to discuss the comings and goings in the league throughout the break and the impact we hope to see them make over the next year. If it's anything like last season, we're in for a treat. And on that note, then we'll jump into our first interview with Jessie Stapleton. Straight off the training ground, I'm led to believe, Jessie. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's fantastic to have you. Brilliant. So, you're in the midst of it there, just coming off the training ground. To kick things off, I guess, after the dramatics of last season, what's it like kind of having to get back into the swing of it and come back down to earth, I guess, and get back into training?
Yeah, anything that happened last season, it was like it's now in the past and we have to keep going and kick on for this season because all the teams will be up first this year and then we have the Champions League as well. So we just have to sort of put it in the past but use the experience from the league and bring it into the league with us this year.
And for those who don't know, I'm not sure how you couldn't know at this stage, but as I mentioned, it was a dramatic end last season. Just a single point of the difference between yourselves and Peamount. And the Cup even had to travel from Peamount over to Tulka Park when Galway threw that shock 5-2 result. Can you take us back to that day for a minute, Jessie, and just kind of what was going into in your head coming into the game, and then kind of how it all unfolded in the end?
Yeah, I think it started off from the Peamount and DLR match when it was a draw, and we didn't want to get our hopes up too much, because it would have been a big shock if they did lose to Galway, because obviously it would have won the league for them. So we went into the Wexford match just more so preparing for the cup final the week after, and then we had the hopes and the little feeling in the back of our heads, but we didn't really discuss it much. And then we went 1-0 up, and there was roars from the crowd and all. We didn't know what was going on until we got in at half time, and we all just had a little chat and was like, when the roars are in, that means Galway are at the scoring a goal. And then we went 2-0 up, then I think it went 3-0 and then 3-1. And then I remember one time when we went 3-0 up, I celebrated over in front of my dad. And I gave him a little whisper. I was like, Dad, what score is it? Because he had the score up on his phone. He was telling me the score from the Galway match, and we were all just shocked. And then obviously panic set in, and we knew that we were going to win the league. And then Wexford were still obviously they're a very good team, so they were still in the match, and they would never say die. So it was a brilliant night.
That's funny that you mentioned there, kind of the madness of it, that you were literally shouting over to your dad, going, "What's the score?" in the middle of the match,
Something I don't think will ever happen again in any league. Oh, it was just crazy.
Yeah, and if we can carry even a touch of it into this season, I'm sure, as I said before, we'll all be in for a treat. But yeah, as it came to award season, then you were nominated alongside Ellen Malloy and Aoibhinn Clancy, of course. What's that like for yourself, or do personal kind of accolades come into it at all in the footballing landscape?
No, obviously I played with Ellen and Aoibhinn all the way up through the underage Irish teams and all. They're both brilliant players, so it was I was honoured to even get nominated. And obviously I didn't win it, but fair play to Aoibhinn. She had a brilliant year, and she was well deserving of it. So, but the two girls with that I was nominated with are two brilliant players. So.
You're not even mentioning your own phenomenal talents there now, Jessie, but touching it there, yeah, that's something I was actually going to ask you about. You were saying that, you've played with them maybe all the way up, and I'd say your teammates, but I'd say friends too. I know it kind of came to my mind when I was writing that question. I remember the FAI Cup final when Ellen got a bit injured. I remember seeing you helping her off. Now, whether it was to get off the pitch so you could get the ball back or something, I'm not too sure. But yeah, what's that like, kind of having
it
friends?
was a more get off the pitch challenge.
Yeah. What's that like for you then, Jessie? Like having those kind of friends in the league, but also rivals week in, week out? Or Jessie, sorry, jeez.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Can you say that again?
Sorry, I was saying, what's it like for yourself, Jessie, having to play these friends, but also rivals week in, week out?
It's lovely. Like they're all some of my best friends. Like because you're always with them in camps and all. But when it comes onto the football pitch, there's no friends.
And with the camps, the international camps, I'm led to believe off the FAI promotional videos, you're a talker in the dressing room, are you?
Nah, I would be with the underage, but I let Perlo take the talks. I just rob what Perlo says for our talks and bring it into the Irish camp.
Yeah, because I saw in the few videos they were doing the under-19 setup, we're saying, all right, you're the one for the team talks, but it doesn't translate over to Shel's, does it not?
Nah, I'd let Perlo take it. She's the wise one.
Maybe in a few years, but
yeah.
On the international setup, then I suppose how do you enjoy that, kind of getting away to these countries with those camps and getting to play football at a kind of a high level?
Oh, it's a brilliant experience. Like you go all to the countries that you won't go away with your families and all, and you're in a professional environment for a week or two with all your friends that you grew up with as well, and you're training, you're in a high professional environment, and it's basically just football. So if you're a football player and you love football, it's your dream place to be, and obviously representing your country is, I think, every kid's dream.
Yeah, and there's lots of talent in that regard spreading throughout the whole league, and lots of youth players with the Reds too, like, that are very talented. Abby Larkin, Leah Doyle, yourself, Aoife Kelly, mixed in with a few new signings, of course, like let's say Megan Smith Lynch, for example. How are you guys feeling ahead of the start of this year's kickoff?
Yeah, even in training, everyone's buzzing, so I think it'll be a good year. Obviously take what we got from last season and bring it into this year with the new signings. Megan, obviously a well-experienced player. Gemma is brilliant. Aoife Kelly, I've played with her underage as well. She's a brilliant signing. So we're all buzzing for this season and very excited.
Yeah, and how would you say then, Jessie, the squad has adapted to losing such kind of stakeholders in, Jamie Finn and Emily Whelan midway through last season, but also Ciara Grant and Saoirse Noonan more recently?
Yeah, obviously they're brilliant players, and it was a big loss for us. But I think that's what happens in football. Unfortunately, we lose good players over to the big clubs over across the water. But I think we're very good. We have a good team. We have a good squad. We have depth. So I think obviously there are massive players, but we have players that came in that can fill their boots.
And does that then bring with it its own pressure for you to step up and kind of, fill their boots, as you say?
Yeah, no, I don't like to think of it in that way. I just like to go out on the pitch and just play my own match, and I don't really like filling anyone's boots.
You just play your own match in that regard.
Yeah.
And after getting some breaking news there as well, I'm sure maybe you already know, but it's just been announced that Durham FC will see Saoirse Noonan return to Tulka Park for the 2022 season. So that's exciting news for Shelbourne.
We have to keep it a secret. But it's brilliant to have Saoirse back. Obviously she was a very big player for us last season, so I'm excited to see her again this season. Hopefully she kicks on herself.
Yeah, I was just about to say, even by the time I said that question and then that news broke, it was just, I could see the look on your face. I was like, oh. It's brilliant to have that bit of goal scoring prowess back in Tulka, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And then we have the likes of Abby Larkin as well up front, Leah O'Leary coming in as well, that they can all score goals, and Gemma. So there's loads of little goal scorers up there, and then it'll be good to see which ones make it into the starting 11.
And the Shamrock Rovers background yourself, Jessie, with Sligo Rovers coming into the league, I think we were chatting before we even came on air that there's been a lot of talk about more teams and maybe a potential second year in years to come. Now, this is a toughie, but if it were to happen in years to come, Shamrock Rovers were to establish a team, would you consider going back to your roots, or are you a red now through and through?
I'm a red now. I'm a red. Obviously, Shamrock Rovers is brilliant for my development and all, but once I joined Shelbourne, I knew it was a brilliant club, and you can't leave them.
Once a red, always a red kind of way.
Yeah, that's it.
Then the final few for me, Jessie, coming into this season, there's an added pressure, I guess, of the status of champions on your backs. Does that kind of change things with people maybe thinking that you're favourites coming into these matches, or, as you say, do you just go in and play your own game and kind of just take it from there?
Yeah, obviously we're going in as champions, so literally every team is going to be gunning to win us, and obviously there is loads of new talent added to each team, so I don't think it's going to be like a top 2, top 3 team. I think it's going to be an equal league throughout, and I think every game is going to be as tough as each, so it's just going out and winning each match and play on, and just take each match as it comes.
Do you feel then the increased attention that's been on the league, all the eyes that the dramatics of last season brought and all the excitement it brought, do you think that brings its own kind of need to impress with it too?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like, even with Shelbourne, the men's fans aren't just the men's fans anymore. They're just Shelbourne fans. They're coming to our match with the flares and the chants and all. It's brilliant. So it's just exciting to see, and it's a good push on the pitch as well when you have the chants and the flares going. You see all the little girls coming, waiting for you, go walking into the tunnel. It's exciting.
Are you one for signing the autographs? No.
Just a dodgy handwriting.
And then the last one, Jessie. So you touched on there the cultivating that kind of fan culture and the flares and the chants and everything. Dublin Derby this weekend is the opener. Maybe a few heavy tackles to be expected.
I don't think it has to be a derby for me to throw in a few heavy tackles. Yeah, but it'll be a good match this weekend.
What do you make of Bows as a side? And you're hoping for the 3 points, no doubt.
Yeah, obviously we want to go out and win, but we know Bows are a tough side, and we played them last season and they made it hard for us. A few late equaliser with Perlo and tight games. So it'll be a good match, but we're hoping to get to 3 points.
Brilliant stuff, Jessie. So thanks for joining us tonight anyways, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to see how the reigning champions get on this weekend. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Now, Shelbourne may have been the eventual Women's National League winners, but they were denied the double by Wexford Youths. A key player in the team was one who first played in an FAI Cup final in 2006, I'm told. 16 years later, she's still collecting the silverware. Nicola Sinnott, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Alanna, for welcoming me on.
So, as I said there, Youths went on to fasten FAI Cup glory, and we'll get on to that in a second. But as Jessie touches on there, the dramatics of last season, was there a small part of you that wished Wexford Youths could have been involved in it?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we were very disappointed. Obviously, we finished third in the league, but we were extremely disappointed not to be competing in that last game of the year. Looking back on last season, I think there was very small margins between us. The 3 top teams at the top. We kind of had two poor games at the start of the season, and we went on like a 20-game unbeaten run, and that's it sounds like we had a great season, but then not to be challenged and come to the last game was very disappointing for us. So the small margins make a massive difference, but it was obviously a great spectacle for the league, and to witness it on a night and to see, as Jessie mentioned, the dramatics of the last night and how it was going from one game to the other and swinging in both directions. It was kind of exciting to see, and it was nice to see the joy on their faces. Almost kind of, you feel a bit jealous, and you want to feel that feeling that they were feeling on the night.
It wasn't all doom and gloom now, though. You guys, of course, went on to lift the FAI Cup and in an electric night in Tal, I think it's fair to say, against Shels. A nice win and a good one to get your own back, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was, and obviously we knew in the final league game, we were out running for the league, and our focus then was obviously on the cup. It was unusual getting to play Shelbourne obviously the week before the cup final. But yeah, it was a great day in Tala. Great crowd, good atmosphere, and obviously a very close game. And thankfully we came out on top. And we had an aim at the start of the season to win both league and cup. To come away at one was something, and it was a nice way to finish a long season.
And do you have any standout memories from the day, Nicola? I'm sure just the euphoria was phenomenal, but I know I've heard stories of, I think even Ella Malloy and Aileen Clancy in particular having to get in a taxi and go off to Irish training and that kind of thing. While the rest of you guys maybe got to go out celebrating. Any kind of standout memories in that regard?
I definitely think, obviously, the second half, I think a big turning point was Lolly Collins' tackle on Saoirse when she was through on goal. That was a wake-up call for us. And then obviously the 2 goals in the second half, you can't really describe that feeling to anybody unless you experience it. It was an amazing feeling to see those 2 goals go in. And, especially the third coming close to the end, you're getting close to that final whistle. It was a great feeling. But yeah, obviously different memories after the game. The 2 girls being involved with the camp. It was probably a little bit disappointing that they had to head off and couldn't enjoy the celebrations. You can take for granted these cups, and they're young girls, 17 years old. I really think they should have got the opportunity to enjoy with the team and their family and their friends. But obviously that's the commitments you have to make when you're involved in the senior squad.
And in your time in the league, Nicola, there's been such a growth in the game with equality growing day by day. What's that like to reflect on the difference from when you first started out and maybe what it's like now?
Yeah, so I think this is my 10th, maybe 11th season. I've actually lost count, but massive changes obviously has happened over the years. There's times I actually, see the young girls coming in our team, and I try to think back how I felt or what I thought the league back then. But the progress, particularly, suppose maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, has been absolutely massive. Just even the progression of the teams, the league is a lot more competitive. Obviously, having additional teams is a massive plus as well, having more games. And then obviously the added media coverage and support that we're getting behind the league is brilliant. And as I said, in the last couple of years, there seems to be a progression each year, which is really good to see.
And taking it back then to, I suppose, some of those earlier days, you've been at Peamount and UCD, I believe, and you played in that famous PSGP's Champions League game in 2011. Now, all of those players seem to be scattered throughout the league and even overseas. But what's it like kind of seeing that progression, as we mentioned just there, and then kind of knowing them so well, but playing against them week in, week out?
Yeah, well, obviously that feels like a lifetime ago. I was in college in Dublin and obviously signed for Peamount for a couple of years there, and had that great experience to be the first Irish team to qualify to the final 32 and stage of Champions League, and to experience that home and away game against PSG. But so obviously that's 10, 11 years ago now, and I've obviously played with those girls and they've been rivals now of mine for the last couple of years in the league. But it's it was a massive experience. But I think obviously being from Wexford, that was always a place I was going to end up, and I'm happy that I'm here for 10 years now, and it's great to see all those girls that were involved in that Champions League campaign. A lot of them still playing in our league, and a lot of them have moved on and got great opportunities in the professional side of the game as well.
Does it mean more to you then, Nicola, when you touch on there, just be at Wexford and being successful with Wexford?
I think so. It's obviously Wexford is where I was born and raised, and the first couple of sessions that I came into Wexford, it was definitely a different feeling I've ever experienced in any club before, and it's the feeling of kind of family and unity that I haven't really experienced before. And it's a funny feeling to say that you kind of just knew it was the right fit. And as I said, after a couple of sessions, I absolutely loved it. And being involved in the club, I've made like lifelong friends. And as I said, we're like a family on and off the pitch. And that's a lot to be said for that.
And that family status translate through to the pitch. I think you can really see it in Wexford. There's a real bond there, and you hear Kylie talk about it as well as yourself. Often I've heard you say before as well, while I'm on it, that you think it's important to you to be a role model. whether that be in a team or just kind of in general. Why is that, do you think, Nicola?
Well, it's obviously important. As I said, I suppose I considered an experienced player now, maybe, or you want to just call me old. But it's very important that, especially in Wexford Youths, we kind of create an environment that everybody feels comfortable, and we're not, just because we've been in the league longer doesn't mean we're any way better or no more than someone that was just signed this year, and we kind of emphasize a lot down in Wexford that everybody's voice is important, everybody's equal, there's no individuals, we're a team, and we I think it's important for myself and Kylie and obviously Del, some of the players who've been around as long as me, to create that kind of environment where the young girls feel comfortable and can express themselves and show their talents as well, and being part of the team.
That's definitely showing fruits as well. Like the young talent in Wexford is phenomenal at the minute. You have Della Doherty, Aoibhinn Clancy, now Becky Watkins, Ella Malloy. There's a massive talent there that has been passed on, I suppose, from you guys who laid the groundwork and are now playing alongside each other, creating a great environment to go and hopefully win things this year, I guess.
Yeah, we're obviously extremely lucky to have the talent of young players that we have. I think it shows what kind of club we are, and the progression the young girls have made. Both Ellen and Aoibhinn in the last few years have won Young Player of the Year, and both made steps into the senior squad as well. Della was obviously a great signing as well for us. She, started her, she was in within a week and has started every game since, and been very versatile and a huge signing for us halfway through the season. And obviously I'm excited then to see Becky. Absolutely delighted to have her on board. She's a huge talent. I feel like she hasn't got a chance to show the league what she's about and what she can offer. And hopefully she'll be on the same path as the girls and show her talent in the league this year as well. And obviously then you'll see maybe as the season progresses, we've signed some even younger girls again, even younger than those girls that are 16 and 17 involved with the international setup, and they've come in training this year and they've been excellent as well, and they're fearless in everything they do, and I'm excited to see how they get on this season as well.
And you referenced at the start there, Nicola, the unbeaten run you guys went on when Stephen Quinn came on in the middle of last season. Do you feel there's a bit of a quiet confidence about Wexford Youths heading into the 2022 season?
Well, we've obviously high expectations of ourselves. We want to compete, and we want to come away with every trophy that's available. We know there's small margins between winning and losing, and can challenge for league in the last day and not challenging. We are confident. We believe in our ability, but as I said, the league is super competitive this year, and you can't really afford to make any slip ups. As I said, we made a slip up in the first 2 games last season, and I felt like we were trying to play catch up from then on. So, and as you see throughout last season as well, there's teams taking points off each other, and so it's obviously a long season ahead. But as I said, we've high expectations, and we're there to compete and trying to win every trophy that's available.
That competitiveness too brings with it, I think, a rise in intensity and even commitment, because there's such a rigorous schedule this year that it's kind of ever increasing the amount of commitment players have to give. And with the 10 teams now, there's no kind of off week this week or this year. How do you think that plays into Wexford Youth schedule this year, or everyone's schedule in the league? Like, it's going to be fairly hell for leather.
Yeah, I think there's 27 league games, so it's a long campaign. It's not won or lost in the first game, but it's important to kind of get a good start and build a bit of momentum throughout the season. But it's obviously very tough on a lot of people. The commitments are high, but that's the sacrifices you make to play at this level, and opens up opportunities for a lot of people as well. But we have girls traveling from different sides of the country. A lot of girls travel well over an hour to go training during the week, and young girls that are in school and they're doing homework, in the car on the way home, and obviously, huge commitments traveling to and from training. And outside from that, then there's obviously, outside of training, you have to be involved in gym sessions and your diet and, different programs and stuff like that. So I don't think people realize the commitment that the girls actually make to be involved in, on this level. A lot of people just see what happens at the weekends, but there's a huge amount of work that goes in behind the scenes from every team and every squad in the league.
Do you think, Nicola, that speaks to the rise in touch and professionalism in the game in recent years?
I think so, and I think everybody involved wants that progression, and I'm sure each club has, their own committees and funding and backing them, and every year there's, they're trying to add something more to make it more professional, and whether that's S&Cs and dietitians and extra coaches and GPS equipment or whatever it might be. Every club is really striving to push it to the next level and set the standards high and keep pushing the league. And I think that's a sign as well. Our league is improving. You can see, in the last year or two, there's more and more girls being poached to go over, from our league to go over to the professional setup. So I think it shows the standard of our league and that professional, how it's improved over the last couple of years.
Finally then, Nicola, heading into the weekend, Wexford take on Athlone, a young side with lots of potential, but you guys will be looking to start off with a victory, no doubt.
Yeah, obviously the 3 points is the aim, but it's heading up. We're obviously away to Athlone, and it's a very tough place to go to. I still have memories of their very first game in the league 2 years ago. We were their first team. And I'll always remember the crowd up there was like a 12th man, and it was an extremely tough game for us. And we were lucky to come away with a 1-0 win. So since then, in the couple of games we've played them, it's always been a really tough battle. And we find it difficult to break them down, and they've created opportunities against us. So it's a very tough start for us. But as I said, 3 points is the aim, but we'll see how it goes at the weekend.
We'll have to wait and see in anticipation too. Thanks for joining us, Nicola, anyways, and best of luck to you for the coming season.
Thank you very much, Alanna.
Now, there's a 10th team in the league for the first time, meaning there's no off weekend, like I just mentioned there to Nicola. All the more football for us all to enjoy, though. That's thanks to Sligo Rovers, who have partnered with IT Sligo to ensure there's football once again in the Northwest region. To find out more about this, we're going to chat to club captain Emma Hansberry, who has, of course, donned the Women's National League before, but is now back on her home turf. How's it going, Emma?
Good, Alanna. Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Brilliant. So you guys are heading into this league as newcomers this time around. It's been in the works though for a number of years at Sligo. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right there. It's probably been in the works probably about 3 years now, really. When the clubs first kind of started chatting about it. Probably really only in the last year, I suppose, the idea really came to life, and obviously brought their proposal then to the FAI. So more so the last year, it really started to take flight, and here we are, getting ready for the first game on Saturday.
The first game, as you said, on Saturday. Are you looking forward to kicking off once again this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. It's obviously going to be a really tough game. We probably didn't have the luck of the draw now for the first game of the season, but look, we're going to have to play them big dogs at some stage. But we're really looking forward to going into the game. We're all quite relaxed about it. There's no pressure on anyone, players or subs or coaching staff. So we're all quite calm and chilled out going into the game, and just looking forward to kicking off like our first stint in the Women's National League.
And on that note, Emma, do you feel, there's kind of not as much pressure as there would be on other teams to compete this year, that you guys are just trying to find your foothold and then obviously be competitive, but see how things go then over the season?
Yeah, like the club, absolutely. The club have said to everyone, look, there's no pressure on us this season. Let's just see how it goes, where we end up come the end of the season, and then build on there, obviously going into our second season and third and fourth season in the league. So it's nice knowing that there's no pressure, but at the same time, it's important not to be too relaxed and remember that it is a competition and we do have to be competitive. But I've no doubt really that once you step over the line and the whistle goes, like, the competitive streak will come out in everyone, no matter who we're playing. We won't be thinking of relaxing. But it is nice to know that there won't be much pressure as such, I suppose, from the background stuff.
And I heard you mention recently that Conor Grady, who's involved with the academies in Sligo, was keen to get this going, and even yourself involved in coaching there recently. What's that like for yourself, having coached some of these younger girls and now kind of playing alongside them as well?
Yeah, it's a funny one really, because I suppose I I'm still involved in coaching with the Rovers under-17 team, and a couple of the girls obviously are playing with us now in senior, so they might come to training like the odd night. So it's funny having to say coach some people on a Monday night and then switch off from that in training on Tuesday and be the player beside them on the pitch. But it is class to be able to see the progression from the under-17s into the senior team. Like as Nicola said there, they have really young kids playing with Wexford Youths as well, and we're probably in the same position. We have players on the under-17s team and under-19s team who have stepped up to senior level. We've 2 girls in particular who's on the under-17s Rover squad, but they nearly bypassed that age group of the 19s and they're straight into the senior squad because they're good enough to be there. So it's lovely to see that, like, because if you're a talented player, like, I suppose in this league it doesn't matter what age you are. If you have the talent, you can absolutely play at senior level.
You mentioned those 2 girls there, Emma. Are we set to see more local young players filter through into the squad on a consistent level? Because, as you say, like, the talent is there. It's just about harnessing it into the academies, but also the senior teams.
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely something that stood out to me, I suppose, last summer when I came home and got involved with the under-17 squad, and then we kind of trained with the under-19 squad as well. I just couldn't believe the talent that was on show in Sligo, and most of them girls were Sligo based. We had a few coming from Leitrim and a few coming from Mayo, but I was blown away really by the talent, because I hadn't been around junior football in Ireland for a few years, so I hadn't watched any junior games, hadn't been involved in any coaching teams, and honest to God, when I came home, I could not believe where the standard was, say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago compared to where it is now, because of the underage setup in the Women's National League. And absolutely, I think it's evident, Wexford Youths have loads of young kids coming through. As Nicola said, we have loads of young kids coming through. I'm sure plenty of the other clubs do as well. But I think over the coming years, there'll definitely be more kids jumping up to senior level, just with the rate of things, the way that they're going now, and the coaching that they're getting. There is no reason, as I said already, if they are good enough, they can absolutely jump up to senior level for sure.
Who do you think in particular, with the coach's hat on, maybe would be the ones to watch coming up the ranks through Sligo?
So we have Pixie O'Hara and Jessica Casey in with us at the moment. They're still 2 under-17s, members of the under-17 squad. You have Alice Lilly, who's an Irish under-16 international. There's no reason why she shouldn't be jumping up to the senior squad, maybe this season, if not next season. We've Emma Duffy, another talented player, centre mid, who I could see making a great impact on the 17s league this year, and probably will be good enough to jump up to the 19s. We've a goalkeeper in with us now who we actually signed. She was with at loan last year under 17s, Amber Hardy. I don't think it'll be long before she's getting a call to the underage international setup. She's an exceptional goalkeeper. The list kind of nearly goes on. It's just the talent is amazing that's coming through. But they would probably be my standouts in particular for sure.
Just to name a few.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of, it's been said before, there's a lot of talent from the Northwest kind of scattered throughout the league. Let's say, namely, in at loan, Aoife Harron, Muireann Devaney, Roisin Malloy. Do you maybe, would you guys be aspiring to maybe have those kind of players draw closer to Sligo in the coming years?
Yeah, well, we've actually already signed Aoife Harron, so she is a member of the Rovers squad. She just can't commit at the moment, but over the next couple of months, she is going to be coming in with us. Obviously, as you said there, Muireann Devaney, Roisin Malloy. Obviously, with Bowes, you have Yvonne Hedigan, who is a Sligo native as well. So, if you sign them 3 players alone, it adds such a boost to the squad that we have at the moment. I think it's just important that, in particular, when we do play games against at Lone Town, say, and Bohemians, that we do make a really good impression. They're games in my head that we'd love to go out and get 3 points from, to show the girls, there is no need for you to be travelling an hour and 40 minutes up the road. Why aren't you playing with your home club? Do you know what I mean? There's no reason for that. We're just as good. We're going to be competitive in this league. So we're going to try and get them on board, I suppose, that way. It's just by the time the league or our team did get announced, I suppose, in the league in December time, the girls, didn't get a chance to be approached by us as such, and they had their commitments made to Athlone Town and Bohemians, just with the late entry to the league, I suppose, that we had. But you'd be hoping, like, come June time when the window's back open again, that say them players in particular would like to come back and play for their home club.
Definitely, and I'm sure there's more players on the Northwest target list, like Dervla Byrne, maybe with Leitrim, or Alba County with Galway. So, being from Sligo myself, I know well there's plenty of female stalwarts in the fan base of Sligo Rovers. What does it mean, though, to have that kind of translate through to the pitch this year, finally?
The fan base, is it, Alanna?
Both things. So I suppose, like, growing up, like, there's always been a massive female cohort of Sligo fans, but I mean, there's finally the team now coming to fruition in the end of it. It must be good to kind of go from fan, one would say, for yourself, to player, like.
Yeah, it's class, to be fair. I live quite close to the showgrounds here, so I suppose I always grew up like you did, going into the showgrounds to watch the men's team like every Saturday night. So I've played on the showgrounds pitch maybe 4 or 5 times. That's all in my life. That's with the the underage Sligo Leitrim League here, and we would have got to the finals back in the day. And I do remember when we used to play as young kids, it was amazing to us getting to play on the showgrounds pitch as playing in a Sligo Leitrim final. So I think it'll be a lovely feeling, I suppose, come the 12th of March when we do get to walk out playing the very first home game of the Women's National League, and we really do hope that there will be a good turnout that day. I do think there will be, because there's a great buzz around Sligo at the moment. It seems to be the talk of the town, this new team into the Women's National League. Loads of people are supporting us, getting behind us through social media, and when you're walking down the street, everyone's kind of stopping and asking you how it's going and everything else, and saying that they'll be there to support us. So I think come the 12th of March, the showgrounds will have a nice little number of crowd there for sure.
Do you think then, Emma, the likes of that decision to play in the showgrounds reflects the club's view on where the women's team stands in comparison to the men's? Like, they're trying to put it on par, or what would you say in that regard?
Yeah, I think it's shown the club's intentions of why they entered us into the Women's National League, the way they wanted to go over the next few years. I mean, there was only one place for us to play this year, and that was the showgrounds. Like, it shouldn't have ever been in question, and it's reassuring to hear that it was never a question of the club. The minute they wanted the team, they knew straight away that we did want to play our home games in the showground. So it just shows like that they are trying to set the standards high, I suppose, from the get-go. And I've seen that in the club over the last kind of 8 weeks. The standards are very high in terms of being as professional as we can, I suppose, and also anything that the men are getting, it's reflecting to us, because we're getting the same thing as well. And it's something that the chairman, Colin Feely, said from day one, like, anything the men's get, he wants the women's to get as well. Any publicity that the men's get, he wants us to get as well. And I'm pretty sure that's evident, just say through social media alone, how much we have the backing of the club. And obviously with the IT partnership as well, it's excellent to have that, because we get to train there on a Tuesday and Thursday night. So that's our facilities on a Tuesday and Thursday night for training in the IT, and then up to the showgrounds then to play the games on the Saturday. So we have a really good setup, I suppose, in that sense. And yeah, it's good to know just that where you're training every week is the same pitch, I suppose, and all our home games are going to be on the same grass pitch too.
And how crucial then, Emma, is that IT partnership? Obviously it stretches now Donegal, and the catchment area is wider. So how important is that to the future of Sligo Rovers as a club?
Yeah, I think that's super important, to be honest with you, because as you know, like up here in the Northwest, one of the massive one of the massive kind of barriers we have to signing players is obviously Gaelic. Like, a lot of players play Gaelic up this region, so that's probably the toughest thing that we have to challenge with. Anyone who's generally good at Gaelic or good at soccer, they're good at both sports. So I think now with this IT being on board, the scholarships that they're giving away are worth over €20,000 to students coming on board. I mean, that's so hard to turn down as a student, and I suppose of parents of kids as well who are going to college. I'm sure they'd want to push their kids to go to IT Sligo and get a great scholarship and play football if that's the level that they want to get to. And of course, it's about making sure that people are getting a good education alongside playing football as well. So I don't see why it wouldn't attract people from Donegal or Cavan, Leitrim, Mayo, Roscommon, any of the surrounding counties of Sligo. I think it'll be a massive pull for us. You won't see it so much this season, but say come September time when the new enrollment starts, it'll be it'll be from there where we'll see plenty of new scholarship students coming in and playing with Sligo Rovers, I hope.
Yeah, and obviously there's the IT there as a plus, and there's fantastic academy structures in Sligo Rovers. Do you think maybe a different barrier, kind of another conversation, I guess, is maybe there needs to be a league below National League to kind of pull from that kind of area too, or maybe that's something for the future, or what do you think there?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. It's a really good question. I suppose, like, when you look at Mayo, they're still running a successful, like, Mayo Women's League as such within Mayo.
Yeah.
And they obviously have talented players in that league, because 4 girls in particular, just at the top of my head, and 4 girls who have played in the Mayo League over the last few years are now signed with Sligo Rovers. So there obviously is talent coming through from that league. In terms of Sligo, I suppose, yeah, I mean, would I have the players for it? I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure at all on that one. I suppose there'll be a lot of running going into setting up a new Sligo league. Would they have enough teams? I'm not too sure. It might be a thing where they just play against the Mayo clubs, if anything else. But I suppose it is a pity that there is no pathway for, say, under 17s, under 19s players who don't make it to the senior Sligo Rovers team. I suppose it is a pity that there is no like Sligo league that they can play in, but it could be something to bring to the forefront over the next couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's something to come in the future. Taking it back then from the future, well back to the past, Castleberry Celtic and Wexford Youths. You won your fair share there. A different ordeal, I'd say, playing in tandem with them than against them this time around, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. God, Wexford Youths have been such a successful club since the Women's National League started. I absolutely enjoyed my time there. I loved every second of it. And you were chatting to Nicola, obviously, previously about that, the closeness, I suppose, that they have as a unit. And it's mad to see so many players come and go from Wexford Youths over the year. It's nearly a new squad completely now compared to when I played there. There's probably maybe 5, 6, 7 players who were there when I was there, but it just shows like the importance of the older players like Nicola and Kylie and Edel to unite the squad, because looking at the cup final there last November, it was so clear to see that they still have that really tight family connection with one another, and that comes down to the older players and the more experienced players to be able to bring in the younger guns and the new kids and the new players signing and create that atmosphere within a club. I think that's why I enjoyed my time in Wexford so much, because we all were literally best friends. It's just the way it is down there, just lovely group of people, and the support that they have with their committee as well is second to none. And they're still obviously really successful, and I'm sure they will be going for the title this season and the cup, of course, again. But I had some great days down there, like plenty of cups won with Wexford Youths and titles and everything else. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time down there, and really thankful that I got to play for a club and win all the silverware that I did with them and experience Champions League as well.
And I'd say that's the family dynamic is something you're hoping to bring in along with the success to Sligo Rovers in the coming years, Emma.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking when you were chatting to Nicola about that, I was just thinking if I could even bring a quarter of that to the Sligo Rovers team this season, it will be a success story in itself, because the importance, and they know about it, the importance of becoming really close as a unit and becoming the best of friends. Like, it just shows in their style of play. Like, they're such a hard working team, like never say die attitude, never give up. And if you can even bring a quarter of that, as I said, this season to Sligo Rovers, we'll do okay for ourselves, definitely.
Well, thanks a million for coming on, and I'm sure WNL fans around the country are looking forward to seeing you guys do that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, and I'm sure we'll catch up again sometime soon.
Cheers. Thank you, Alanna.
Some great stuff across the show so far, and there's more to come. Next up, we've Breffney Early, who's here to chat all things preview and transfer window before the weekend's games. Of course, where we'll see DLR take on Treaty, Cork versus Galway, Peamount host Sligo, Athlone Town versus Wexford, and Shelbourne battle it out against Bohemians. Some big moves are in the league, Breffney. Who in particular do you think stands out for yourself? You're on mute there, I think. You're on mute, Breffney.
I say blame the producer. No, sorry, yeah. I said we had a huge section laid out here about players moving around, but we've kind of been blown out of the water with the news that Saoirse Noonan has come back. We don't quite know the structure of it, but Shels have announced on their Twitter that she will be playing her football at Talca Park this year. So they've come to an arrangement with Durham, which seems kind of strange, but it is what it is. Possibly a loan, possibly a move, don't know, but Shell's confident that she'll be back in their side this year. So that's a big addition to bring back to the league, and maybe stops the tide of I know Nicola mentioned players going abroad earlier in the show, and it's nice to see that maybe we're taking a bit back as well on that front. In terms of the signings though, over the last couple of weeks and months as we've been following the off season, it's really been some really interesting stories. We've seen a couple of players move clubs within the league. For me, I think the ones that probably stand out the most is the move Megan Smith-Lynch. She's going to be playing her football at Talca Park. I don't know whether Saoirse Noonan's arrival back to the club is going to maybe impact her playing time. It's hard to know, but I think there'll be a good foil for each other, and there's plenty of talent around Shels that they'll be able to do that as well. But there's some great names coming back to the league, names that I suppose women's football fans over the last decade or so will be familiar with. Grace Murray returning to Peamount United. I think she's going to add a bit of experience at left back there, or centre back. Maybe we don't know where she's going to play quite yet, but Grace has a huge energy, and she brings a wealth of experience back to that club. Jetta Beryl, she also makes the trip back to Peamount. She had a big impact when she came to DLR at the end of last season, and I think she might be a huge addition to where Peamount are this year. And Erin McLaughlin as well, they've signed her, the Donegal youngster, and I think in terms of the quality that have been come in, Peamount might have a very small number of signings, but they're really, really top notch, and I think they'll all have an impact on that starting 11 this year on a fairly regular basis as well. In terms of Shels, obviously league champions last year. We talked about them on the show already. They've got a couple of big names coming in. Saoirse, of course. Megan Smith-Lynch will be playing with them next year as well. They've lost more than they've probably gained over the off season though. And Ciara Grant has gone to Rangers. Mia Dodd has gone as well. She's crossed the city to DLR Waves. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. DLR, probably the signing of the season for me so far, in terms of the players they've gone for and where they've pulled players from. They've brought in Sophie Waters, Sarah McKevitt from Cork, Lynn Craven from Wexford, all key players within those squads. The impact they will have on DLR, I think, is going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks. And I can see the other ones as well if you want, but
yeah, and Mia Dodd, of course, too. I think, yeah, as you say, DLR really have been kind of the dark horse of this transfer window and will continue to do so into the league. I think as well, just to mention, Breffney, Jenna Slattery to Galway from Treaty, I think, is another massive signing. Are you confident that she'd make an impact?
Yeah, I think she will. She's still young. She was very impressive in what was a below par Treaty team last season, and I think she will make a big impact with Galway. I think she'll bring that little bit of steel maybe to them that they've been missing. Even though she's young, she's very capable of getting stuck in. I know her disciplinary. She saw a lot of yellow last year, but I think she'll see maybe a bit less. There'll be a little bit less pressure on her consistently to perform with Galway, but I think that will give her that little bit of freedom that maybe she can grow into the league a little bit more. Bows for me have been quite impressive in the off season as well. I think they've brought in some really, really solid league players. I don't think it's going to get them maybe to a league championship challenging spot, but I think they may move from that lower tier of the league teams into that middle tier and maybe occupy the space that Galway and DLR have been in over the last couple of years. I think the strength of Katie Burtis, Sinead Taylor is going to give them a target up front. I think that there's potential there for them to really make an impact. Ciara Bates Crosby as well coming in from Wexford. She'll add something to them as well. And I really think it's going to be interesting to see Bohs progress maybe from where they've been over the last 12 to 24 months, and maybe take more scalps this year as they kind of continue to develop. But it's very, very positive from everything out of Dalymount Park as well. Of course, they play their football up in the AFL up on the Oscar Traynor Road. But it's really, really positive. And just the way that we talked to, or you talked, should I say, to Emma briefly about how the men's and women's in Sligo appears to be on the same level, and it's very much the case in Bohs as well. They've been included in everything promotional over the last few months, and it's really, really positive to see that. Ciara Maher, of course, another signing from DLR, and she'll bring a lot of wealth of experience to that team as well. So I expect better things from Bohs this year than maybe we've seen over the last few weeks as well. Of course, Becky Watkins has moved down south. She's left Peamount. She's gone to Wexford. You talked about her to Nicola earlier on in the show, and I think we'll see some stuff from her out of her as well. I think she's going to add something, and she'll get a chance to play in Wexford a bit more often than maybe she had at PLR Park.
Definitely. I think there's some more talk about as well, not so much as the players that have signed, but I think the players that have stayed. I think the fact that Galway have managed to maintain Savannah McCarthy is huge news for them. Such a stakeholder there at centre back, and nearly a signing in itself, even though she of course has been playing with them for a number of years now. So yeah, do you think these new players gelling with the existing players that are already there will make some really exciting clashes this season?
Yeah, I think Galway is an interesting one. They've kind of flattered to deceive over the last few years, but they've made a couple of signings from abroad. A couple of American college players have come in. They're kind of an unknown quantity. We saw it last year with a couple of players they brought in. I know they had a Slovenian goalkeeper, didn't quite work out for her. And there was a few others from the States and from various places around Europe came in as well at different stages in Galway last year. They tend to kind of pull these, they're like the Sligo Rovers of the women's game in terms of bringing in these foreigners that people aren't quite au fait with or familiar with. I've looked into one or two of the girls that Galway have signed. There's some interesting talent there. They've interesting records across the collegiate system in the US, and I think if two or three of them fire, Galway could be challenging for maybe third or fourth place in the league and really be pushing up at the table. But we need to see that from Galway because they've been around for a couple of years. I think for me, the biggest loss that Galway have had over the close season is not necessarily on the pitch. I think the departure of Ruth Fahey from the CEO role in Galway, I think, and how that happened, and I suppose the statement that was released by Galway Women's FC, it just seems disappointing the way that all played out. I thought it was a really big step forward for the not just the club, but the league at the tail end of last year. So to see it kind of fall apart in such a way, it's disappointing for everybody, for Ruth and for the club, I'm sure as well. But it's just, we need to get the off-field stuff better. And then the on-field stuff can progress because the players are there. We've heard it all night from all of the various people around. But that's a big loss, I think, for Galway off the field. Towards the lower end of the table, and I'm loath to do this a little bit, but of course, Sligo are a complete unknown entity apart from one or two players. We know, of course, Emma Hansberry. She's been around the league as long as the league has been in existence. But there's a few other players have come in from various places. Gemma McGuinness comes in. She played a bit with Derry over the years. She'll come in and bring a bit of steel to that. Amy Hindman was on the books of Athlone, although didn't see much game time at Athlone Town Stadium over the last couple of weeks. But the rest of the squad have come in pretty much from junior football, as Emma mentioned, and from the underage ranks within Sligo. The one exception to that is their goalkeeper. Name escapes me right now. I think it's Semple is their surname. I have it here somewhere, but she will come in and add something to that division. But again, she was at Cork last year, didn't set the world alight, couldn't get in. Kristen Semple is the name of Sample. Sorry, is the player there. And we've put the whole Sligo squad up because they've all signed from nowhere effectively. But I'm interested to see how that goes. It's so key. Obviously, we're both from the Northwest. I was involved when Sligo set up the club, the women's side of the club, under 17 level a couple of years ago when Emma was kind of a bit of an inspiration going around. The girls were all in awe of her. She was working in the sports centre in the IT at the time. And to see that now leading out a team, including a couple of those girls that were with us back in 2018 and other players from around the Northwest, it's really, really exciting time for everybody involved in women's football up here. And to have that the pathway for players to play with their school, get into the club system, go into Sligo Leitrim leagues, and then move on to National League level. It's been a big hole in the Northwest, so it's great to see that. And players like Muireann Devaney, Roisin Malloy, Dervla Byrne, and others, Alva Clancy as well, have all kind of been involved in National League over the last few weeks. You mentioned Aoife Harron too. There's plenty of those players who now get the opportunity, or the next generation of those players at least, to do it locally, not have to get in the car and drive for 2 hours to train, and they can go down the road to Sligo and do that instead. So I think that's the big success story of this season. And unfortunately for Sligo, I hate to say it, but I think it might be one of very few successes they're going to have this year. I'd be worried for the quality that they're bringing in. It's a big step up from the junior grades, but I think they will pull off a couple of surprises. The first game they played at under 17 level was in Peamount in PLR Park, and Sligo went and won 3-2. So maybe, but I doubt it, but maybe they can pull off a similar result on Saturday afternoon. I'd love to see it, but I just can't quite see it happening. In terms of other departures, of course, Nisha McAloon has left Peamount. But now that leaves them with less of a dilemma to pick who's going to be starting in goals on the night. Niamh Burke will more than likely fill that jersey for the full season, rather than the chopping and changing that we've seen from James over the last couple of seasons. So she might be happy with that departure. But Nisha seems to be making waves at Durham as well. So the very, very best of luck to her over there. And then in terms of one of the other key signings, I think we've seen a lot of departures from Treaty. The Cronins have left Treaty. Jenna Slattery has left Treaty. A couple of other girls have moved on to other pastures. But I think Trish Fennelly Hunt returning. She's an experienced goalkeeper. She's played in this league for the best part of 10 years. I think she's maybe played every season, bar maybe when she was otherwise engaged with producing a baby, been pregnant. I didn't play that year, but she's had a long career in the game. She's experienced. She'll give that little bit of experience at the back, and she'll rival Michaela Mitchell for that goalkeeping starting position over the next 9 months of the season. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes down.
Yeah, and I think that excitement extends all throughout the league. So I think on that note, we'll wrap up, unless you have anything else, Breffney?
No, that's all. I realize I've talked over you for the last few minutes, but I want to say congratulations. We did approach you a couple of weeks ago about coming in and taking on the show, and you've really risen to the task tonight. So fantastic first show. I'm sure it's only going to get bigger and better, if that's even possible, as we go on. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the show and the league progresses over the next 9 months of the season or so. So well done to yourself.
Eager to see how it all plays out myself too. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm very excited to see how it all kicks off on the pitch this weekend, and where we'll end up come Saturday evening. But a big thank you to all the guests this evening, from Jessie Stapleton, Nicola Sinnott, Emma Hansberry, and of course yourself, Breffney. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, though, be sure and drop your suggestions to us and comments here at finalwhistle.ie. I've been Alanna Cunnane. This has been the Women's National League Show. Thank you.